going to mention that I think what's quite clear is that Saudi Arabia wants a very clean line when it comes to the reforms that are being pronounced and the way it's being implemented. They do not want criticism being leveled at them whatsoever. The link I just want to make with the United Arab Emirates is, as many of you know, Mohammed bin Zayed has been acting as the mentor to Mohammed bin Salman. And, we work on both the UAE and Saudi, and we know the level of PR machinery that the UAE has adopted, which the Saudi Arabian authorities have been doing only very recently. So in the last 2 years, we've seen a real pickup in both the number of PR firms that have been hired by Saudi Arabia, the way in which their lobbying efforts have been really dominating in the international media, the op-eds, the kind of messaging, everything has really changed. Saudi Arabia's never really needed to do that before. They've never really opened themselves up to the international community in the way that they're doing now. And the way they're managing that image has really become much more sophisticated. I don't think it's as sophisticated as the UAE. I think they actually sometimes leave themselves up for mockery. So, everyone knows of with the robot, for instance, where the female robot that they give nationality to turned out to be ridiculed for the fact that Saudi women are not allowed to give nationality to their own children if they're married to foreign men. So, these things can end up becoming, these PR stunts are not always helpful in Saudi Arabia. But in a way, they're quite new to this whole issue of how do you manage a PR image in such a clean way. And in this sense as well, they, instead of arresting women later, for instance, which they could have done, they arrested them just before, and which actually mars the whole, actually lifting of the driving ban. So that's, in a way, you could say that was a failure by them to understand how to manage a very specific PR way of doing things. But at the same time, they're very, very controlling. They really do want to have both the reforms in that minimal kind of way, and at the same time want to make sure that there is no criticism whatsoever, even if there's positive criticism coming from women's rights activists. They don't want that level of independent voice coming through. And also for Mohammed bin Salman to take full credit. I think that's part of the reason as well.
Thanks. We have a question from Francesca Cafferi of La Repubblica. Okay, maybe she's having a hard time unmuting, but her question was, Hala says she has no idea why this is happening because it's damaging to the image of the country MBS has tried to build. So this question is for Rothna and Hiba. What's your thinking about this point and about why this is happening now?
Yeah, I think I've sort of answered that. I think it is about having a very clean image, very specifically tailored and controlled messaging. There is a need to sort of own the reform, and and not just that. There is a clear problem that the Saudi authorities had, which Hala can speak to. One of the reasons for why the driving issue was adopted was because it was a low-hanging fruit, right? It was the one issue that was nowhere else did you have this in the world. It didn't make any sense. The logic behind it was always quite fragile, and and so it seemed like the issue that women's rights activists could get a hold of and say, look, why can't we drive? Nowhere else in the world can you do this, not even the Muslim world. And it was embarrassing in both the region as well. Like, you go to any other country and people will say, oh, Saudi Arabia doesn't allow women to drive. It's always embarrassing. And so that was why it was chosen. But the reason why it's chosen was because then you could demand for further rights. And the Saudi Arabian authorities knew that if they gave away driving, they would demand more. And that's why they held off on it for so long. And in a way, if you now allow women's rights activists to say, yes, this is great, we've been wanting this, we've been fighting for this, that then means that they're going to both ask for more, and younger women who have not been part of this will also realize that activism works. If you demand for your rights, you can actually get them. But if you want to be the, Mohammed bin Salman, and you want to say, I'm the reformer, I've come in with a very specific vision, I'm now making these dreams come true, then you want to make sure that it's not coming from anyone else. No one else has been behind this and has demanded this. It's just been you. And what he's done is actually really not only quash those voices, he's trying to revise history. So he's denying the fact that he was a child when women who were twice his age took to the streets in 1990 and campaigned and basically went onto those roads and drove in defiance of this ban and were suspended from their jobs and arrested. These women, including Aziza, for instance, who's now in prison, these women are imprisoned, despite and him, this much younger man, is trying to take full credit for it. So I would say it's coming as part of that as well. And in terms of the connection as well, in terms of what the international media is doing, many of you now and others are, going to Saudi Arabia, there right now to cover the driving ban. And there are no women, no independent Saudi women voices to really capture that other side of the story. Who is talking about those champions? Who's talking about the history of the driving ban activism? It's like, in other countries where you got the civil liberties or the right to vote, except all the champions are missing from the entire story. And that's what's really hard about this, because how are you as journalists supposed to cover this story and this issue in such a prominent way without really giving credit to the whole rich history in which it happened?